losing time off work, you know, when I thought that that period of time where I had to take time off and recover from the attacks was over. Needless to say, I was extremely stressed all the time because there was no rest from the pain. I was in pain 24/7.
Linda, how did you find Carnivore?
Well, it was really an answer to prayer. I've, I'm just to say thank you so much for having me on your channel. It's a privilege to be here. And also, I want to make sure that you know that I'm a very young carnivore. As of today, I'm on day 71, so I haven't even finished my 90-day starting period that I propose to give it a try. But my story basically is about migraines and how debilitating they've become and how it was hindering my life. My very first migraine, I was 13 years old when I had my very first migraine attack. I didn't know what it was. We went to doctors and they went from all the range of sinuses and all sorts of different things and bits and pieces. But it became apparent that every time I had my menstrual cycle, it will get worse. And I will have, I've had to stay at home because I needed to recover from them and everything. I mean, I lived in Venezuela for 25 years in South America. So the medical system over there is very different to here in the UK. So I was very fortunate to know a doctor who will inject me every month with what they call a cocktail. Basically, it's a combination of painkillers with vitamins and other antibiotics and bits and pieces to just boost the immune system into action. So that's what kept me going most of the month. So as soon as my menstrual cycle started again, I will go to the doctor, have an injection, and that will keep me going for the rest of the month. In 2003, I moved to England. So obviously here, everything is, a couple of paracetamol and ibuprofen, that's it, So I found that a bit difficult. So I started having trouble with work because I needed time to recover from these attacks, and the attacks were so severe that I had to be in a dark room, no lights, no anything, even sound was just too much for me at times. So they at work they said, you have to find a way of sorting this out. You can't carry on like this. And okay, fine. So I went to my GP and we started all the process of trying beta blockers and other types of preventative medication. So they started me on the triptans, which is obviously one of the go-to medications when you have an attack. They seem to work, but the only problem with that is that if you take too many too often, then you get addicted, and then you get what's called migraine overuse, medication overuse migraines. So you had to be careful not to take more than 6 a month, and it was very difficult to be able to function this way. And I found myself losing a few jobs because of the migraines and trying to find a way of doing it. Back in 2018, I asked my GP to refer me because I said, nothing's working. What is the next step? So they actually mentioned, well, the next step will be to do a neurologist appointment. They will be able to do a bit more in-depth treatment for you. But it took a year to get the neurologist appointment because such a backlog in England. So as it happened, the pandemic started happening as well, because obviously it became the time when my migraines became worse because of my age, and I was starting to get into perimenopause and all the symptoms that come with that. I was having between 25 and 30 headache days a month, which made it very, very challenging to function at any level. So I had my neurologist appointment in 2021. So we started Botox treatment, which is basically 31 injections in your head, neck, and shoulders to just numb the trigger points where the migraines can get triggered. So the first and second month were brilliant. They reduced significantly the migraine attacks. But the third treatment did not touch them at all. I spent the whole month, because these injections, you can only have them every 12 weeks. So every 3 months is when I would have these injections. So at the third round of Botox came, and I thought, oh my goodness, I wonder if they've, used a placebo instead to see whether I'm lying or not. But I asked the doctor, and she said, no, we wouldn't do that. This is something that we won't do. It just didn't take. That was their explanation. It just didn't take. But obviously at this point, there was no other questions about, let's see what's causing. They said, well, it must be cyclical, your hormones. And there was no other questions about, diet, what you're eating, nutrition, or anything like that. But, you just carry on. This is supposed to be the people that know best. And you just think, well, it is what it is. And I'm just going to have to live with this. They became very debilitating. As I said before, I lost a few jobs because of it. Thankfully, I'm in a job now where they've been extremely understanding of my condition, and they've supported me all the way. But also is the fact that they could see that I was trying to do things in order to improve my attacks. So much so that I came across, on my search, a gentleman in Germany who performs migraine surgery. So the scientific name for that is nerve decompression surgery. So basically, he goes in and decompresses the nerves in your forehead. There's a nerve that comes just right up here, decompresses that nerve, and in the back of your neck, where the trigger there's some occipital nerve that comes up and can trigger migraines as well. So I spoke to my husband. I said, look, as things are at the moment, it's very difficult to live this way, because even he was getting depressed with, seeing me in so much pain and not being able to do anything. So he's had to start taking depression medication because he found it very difficult to cope. So I said, well, let's try this. We have to pay for it. And I had to go to Germany to have it done. So we decided, what have we got to lose? Let's just try it. So on the 7th of August last year, I had this operation. Needless to say, it looked like I had a round with Mike Tyson by the time I came out of there. I was really swollen, obviously, because he had to cut through my eyelids to get into the nerves on my forehead. And, even through the airport, I was joking. I was saying, my husband just beat me up, and, just joking about. But yeah, it was quite tough. Recovery time, it took about probably a good 12 weeks for all the inflammation to go down and everything. I had some family situation as well, which didn't help. So, the professor kept saying, you need to rest so you can heal properly, which I did. So November and December were the best months that I had. I only had about 2 migraine attacks in that period, and I was just thanking God and praising God that I'd found something that would help the migraines. Unfortunately, by the beginning of this year, I contracted COVID. And COVID is known to interfere with nerve decompression surgery. So basically, it creates inflammation. So it triggers all the points. So my migraines, if they could be any worse, they were worse. And I just called the professor and said, look, this is something going on. This is not right. And he said, well, yeah, we know that COVID can cause these inflammation issues. So why don't you come over and we have a round of Botox to help you get through the period where the virus comes out of your system and stuff. And I said, okay, fine, let's do that. So obviously I had to pay for all this. This was not free of charge. And he said, no, you have to wait about 10 weeks for the Botox to kind of, set in and stuff. And it wasn't happening. It was just not, it wasn't doing anything on me. I was having the worst migraines. I was losing time off work, when I thought that period of time where I had to take time off and recover from the attacks was over. Needless to say, I was extremely stressed all the time because there was no rest from the pain. I was in pain 24/7. Even if it was a background headache, I was in pain all the time. And just it was hard to function. And obviously that affects your own self-esteem as well. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do now? What if I lose my job? What's going to happen then? Because there's no point finding another job because it's going to happen the same thing. And, you just get so stressed. And that stress is one of the triggers for migraine as well. It was like, I can't win. So I came across a neurologist in America. He is the author of the book, The Migraine Miracle. And basically he promotes a very low carb diet and high fat, most likely like the ketogenic diet. I followed them for a while. I tried it for a bit. It was not making much difference. So I kind of dropped it and just left it and just tried contacting the professor again to find ways of dealing with this. So he said, you need a course of dexamethasone, which basically it's a drug used with cancer patients. I said, well, let's do it. But the problem I had is my GP didn't want to prescribe me that because it was not prescribed for migraines. It was mostly prescribed for patients with inflammation. I said, well, but this problem I've got now is because of inflammation. No, we can't do that. So after 4 months battle with my GP, I finally managed to get it prescribed for me. So I started this 5-day course of this drug, quite high dose. The side effects were horrendous. I didn't have a migraine, but everything else, it was just, I can't explain how bad it felt having this strong steroid in your body causing havoc. So the 5 days came down, and as soon as the effects of the medication wore off, the migraines were back. So I contacted her, look, it didn't work. Well, you need another 5 days. And, okay, let's try this again, let's do it one more time. And after I came out of that, I said, look, I'm not taking this drug, even if I get cancer, I am not taking this drug. And it didn't work. So I just didn't bother contacting him again. But this time it was July. I've always struggled with my weight. So at the end of July, I decided to start the keto diet to lose some pounds. On my second week in, I came across, I can't remember if it was Dr. Berry or Dr. Chafee, but they mentioned that the carnivore diet reduced inflammation. So obviously my ears perked up and I go, oh, okay, I can listen to this. So it was a Friday when I came across that. So I spoke to my husband and said, look, this is what they're saying, that, carnivore diet. I've looked into this. It's quite extreme, it's quite almost unheard of kind of thing. But I don't have anything to lose. At that point, I was missing at least 1 day a week of work because of migraine attacks. And obviously my stress levels were so high, and it was just a very desperate situation at that point. All this time I was praying to God, oh, just show me, I belonged to a church and we were praying for over a year for healing. And I just felt at one point, I thought, well, perhaps I'm not meant to be healed. And you get to that point where you think, I'm going to suffer from this all the rest of my life. But we have a saying in Spanish that says, in order for God to help you, you need to help yourself. So I thought, well, you know what, I'm going to research this. I'm going to research the carnivore diet. I said, I'm going to give it a try. I've got nothing to lose. I mean, it can't get me worse than I actually am right now. So let's just give it a go. So I started on the 12th of August. The first week went, uneventful. But by the second week, I started experiencing hours without pain. I would be sitting there and thinking, where is it? Where is the pain? I can't find it. And it would be just a victory. People at work like, really? Are you really celebrating because you've been an hour without pain? When you're in pain 24/7 and you experience an hour without pain, that is a massive, massive thing. So I was just like, wow, I don't have pain. Then it will come back and I was like, okay, fine. It took decades for me to get to this stage. So it's not going to be in the first or second week that I'm going to experience massive improvements with this. So I just kept going. I was pretty strict, no cheating, no nothing, just, steak, animal based, butter, eggs, that was my main meals. And I started feeling that I wasn't actually hungry. I didn't have any cravings. And I was thinking, oh, this is easy. I don't feel the need. My husband would sit next to me with a packet of crisps and chocolate and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you. I don't need that. So that was quite a welcomed side effect of doing the carnivore diet, that I didn't feel hungry or didn't feel the cravings. But definitely by week 4, I was starting to experience days without pain. And it was massive. And obviously the weight was dropping off me like, at massive amounts. And like, wow, this is great. So far I've lost about 15 kilos, which I've always, struggled. I would start, we've got Slimming World here in the UK, and I would start Slimming World, and the first week I was already cheating because you had to count, and I was eating 5 times a day, and I was still hungry, and it was just like, I can't do this. I really can't. So I would go back into my binge eating, and I'm a massive Ben and Jerry's fan, so I would eat my tub of Ben and Jerry's. So I was eating three tubs of those a week. No wonder I was getting heavy, But during the carnivore diet, the difference, and people would notice it because my demeanor, because you can see clearly when I have a migraine, my eyes are a bit closed and I'm very much quieter and everything. I mean, by no means they have completely gone, because even this morning I woke up with a really bad migraine. But last week I did not have a migraine whatsoever. So from Tuesday, because I had Monday off because I had a cold. So obviously I had like the sinus headache, but that was it. And I went to work, and even from that I recovered quicker, half a day, and I was just like, oh, okay, fine, I'm ready to go. When other times I would be like 2 or 3 days in bed, oh, I'm dying. But I didn't have a migraine at all until I think it was Sunday. But I think that was probably self-induced because I introduced a bit of cheese, and probably my body just doesn't really like it at the moment. So I need to go back to basics again. But I mean, the change in my life, even my husband says I'm a completely different person. We've been doing sports. We play badminton 2 or 3 times a week now, when before just the thought of trying to hit a shuttlecock would be like, oh no, it hurts too much, I can't do this. And I would spend, I would come back from home and I would spend the evening in my dark room with all the curtains closed, and please don't make any noise, and things like that. So, and it's just been, although they haven't disappeared completely, because obviously I'm still a young carnivore, I'm still a baby carnivore. So I'm expecting it to get better and better as the weeks go by. And just thinking that when I started this journey, I was, thinking, well, if it reduces the intensity, I'll be happy with that. But having actually experienced periods of time without pain, it's just mind-blowing. And, I just can't talk to people enough and say, this has changed my life. It can change yours. So it's just been a godsend, to be honest. It's been an answer to prayer, because I pray to God a lot, asking Him to send me healing, and He sent it in this way of eating. So I'm eternally grateful to Him for this.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you.
Um,
Yes.
it 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 I can't imagine what the relief must be like to get to a point where it feels like something is finally relieving you of this.
That's it. Yeah, it's almost like if you had a heavy load on your back the whole time, and you're trying to function with this, and you feel that your strength is wearing out, and all of a sudden, they take that off you, and you think, oh, I can stand straight again. Obviously, I still get migraines, as I said, but they're not as debilitating. I don't normally. I mean, we went on holiday on the 1st of October to Catalonia. I'm usually a person that runs for the shadows. I'm never exposed to sun, because the sun is a trigger for migraine. So I'll always have migra lenses on, which basically they're like green glass that blocks the blue and red light from the sun, and to try and not trigger migraines and things like that. So I would always be in the shadows. I was a creature of the darkness. So, but during this holiday, it was just mind blowing. We went on a boat trip, and in this boat trip, I had no glasses on. I was letting the sun hit my skin and just absorbing all that. And at the end of the day, I did not have a migraine. And then we still went out for dinner with some people that we met at an animal shelter, and we just spent the night chatting and talking, and they even had a chocolate cake that I would never pass it by. And I was like, no, I just don't fancy it. And to be completely honest with you, it's not worth for the pain that it's going to give me. So, you know what? I'm fine. And it's the first time that I've been able to enjoy a holiday, because we went on holiday last year in April. Went on a Caribbean cruise. Oh my goodness, it was a week from hell for me. We got there, so obviously I had my hat, I had my glasses, I had everything. But so we could do things during the day, I had to drug myself with very heavy painkiller medication so I could go out with my husband and share things together. But in the evenings, he mostly would go out and have dinner on his own, because I was just in bed recovering, ready for the next day and the next lot of drugs, and to try and carry on and not wasting the holiday that we've paid so much money for. So basically, October was, this month was just a blessing that I could go out and enjoy, and I had no time in bed trying to recover from migraines, because I didn't have any. So yeah.
That's fantastic. So how are you eating now? Is it 1 meal a day, 2 meals a day?
I mostly eat. I would say 2 meals, but I would say the heaviest meal is one a day, because just I think I'm still in the mentality that I need something to eat to get on with the day. I don't have breakfast, but I would have a couple of boiled eggs with a bit of butter about 11 o'clock. And then I will have my main meal about 5 o'clock in the evening. So that would be it. And sometimes I have the boiled eggs and I'm not even hungry. It's just, I think, still getting used to the fact that I'm not hungry. I don't need to eat, because obviously when you suffer from migraines, the first thing they say, don't skip meals, because if you get hungry, you're going to get a migraine. So it's battling that mentality of like, right, I don't need to eat in order to not get migraines. So it's just getting used to that. But mainly it's one meal a day.
That's very interesting. if
Yeah.
you don't eat, you'll get a migraine. So
Yes, that's
basically,
true.
if you don't eat, you get a migraine, but you should eat the food, like I'm talking about the general recommendations,
Yeah.
you should eat the food that's gonna make you constantly hungry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's
it's like this
crazy, isn't
vicious
it?
cycle, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And obviously, as part of trying to resolve the migraine issues, and because of my age, I'm going to be 51 next month. I went to see one of the GPs that deals with menopause and things about menopause. And interestingly enough, she knew about the keto and carnivore. And we were talking about, how the plants defend themselves with toxins, so we don't eat them. Animals run and bite to defend themselves. So plants use toxins so they don't get eaten and stuff. So I found it very interesting that she knew all about that. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, so I thought, right, she will be open to have a conversation. So actually, last Monday, I had a follow up with her because I started using hormone replacement therapy in the form of estrogel. So I was using that to try and balance my hormone levels to prevent migraines and all the usual stuff. Um, but I found that after a few weeks on carnivore, I just didn't need it anymore. So I stopped that completely now. And when I had the appointment with the GP on Monday, I explained to her I've gone carnivore and this has happened. I've stopped the estrogel, I've stopped the blood pressure medication, and I've stopped all the pills that I've been taking. The only thing I'm tapering off at the moment is the amitriptyline because obviously you can't get off them too soon because of that you get withdrawal symptoms. So I said I'm the lowest dose. I'm on 10 milligrams a day, and I used to be on 60. So that is significantly gone, and I'm not taking anything apart from electrolytes and magnesium. That's all I take now. And she was really like, oh, people think I'm crazy talking about carnivore diet, but you need to tell people. So they hold a fair every year, a health fair. And she said, would you mind coming and talking about this? And I said, absolutely. I have 100% confidence that this is the answer to chronic illness. And, I've been following all of you guys and I've noticed all these things and it makes sense. It makes sense. And I just don't know why other people can't see it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that when you start doing it, you just everything clicks into place, and it's good. Of course we were having problems. Y-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And the thing is, I think it's very strange because my dad he's Portuguese and he's always been a very big meat eater. So we grew up eating a lot of meat of different kinds, and we eat things that probably people would not try and experiment eating. So I've always been a big meat eater, but obviously when you start being brainwashed, oh, low fat, you can't eat red meat. So I would eat red meat, once a month or something like that. So my main meal would be chicken or fish, but mainly chicken and obviously lots of rice and carbs and spaghetti and pasta and things like that. And you don't realize how much that actually affects your body until you learn about these things. And, I'm so grateful that, people are more and more out there talking about this and all the effects and just testimonies of people. It's like insane that nobody will listen to us and think, right, this is what we need to do.
these whack jobs, they're out there eating food that's normal for them.
But I have noticed actually that people that start doing the carnivore diet, they are at a point in their life where they are desperate. All the people that I've listened to interviews, they've got to the point of their life where they've got nothing to lose, and this is kind of the last resort. And I think the addiction to carbs is a big problem because even my mum, she suffers from diabetes type 2, and I've told her all about this. I've shown her the videos and I've shown her, but she's like, oh no, I'm too lazy. I can't be cooking 2 meals for her and her husband because her husband doesn't like meat. So it's like, oh, yeah, but what about your health? And she suffers from pains in the back, and it's like, ooh, but it is what it is. You can only show the horse where the water is. You can't make them drink it. So
But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, there's very few people that can go, well, I feel good. Everything's right about my life, so I'm gonna go
yeah,
carnivore. That rarely
yeah,
happens, right? It's usually when it's
that's it.
you've run out of options.
Yeah, that's it. And even my husband, I mean, he still eats the normal Western diet. But he says, I don't have any chronic illnesses, so I don't need to go carnivore. I said, well, what about prevention? But again, he says that I couldn't live without potatoes. So again, it's that addiction bit, isn't it? It's that part of the brain that says, no, I can't live without this. But
Yeah.
when you're
Oh,
desperate, you try anything.
yeah. Often though, what happens is that people think, well, I don't have anything wrong, so I'm okay at the moment. But what they don't realize is the way that they feel good now, but they don't realize that that level of good is not the best level of good that they could achieve.
Exactly that. And it's very hard to sometimes put it in words because obviously one of the side effects, one of the pleasant side effects that I've had is a weight loss. So people say, oh, I might start it for weight loss. I'm like, no, if you try and do this for weight loss, it's not going to work because your why is not big enough. And people that start for weight loss soon get bored of the same old food. And I don't get bored of meat and eggs, and I don't bacon. I love it. And my husband even asked me, don't you get bored of eating the same thing all the time? I went, no, it's lovely. I love it.
But that's the other thing that changes, right? Is, you know, you feel like you need variety in your life, right? But then once you start eating food that's nutritious, you don't need that
Exactly.
variety anymore.
Yeah. And that's what I say to my husband. Food should not be entertainment. Should be fuel. You don't see us making a big fuss of taking the car to put petrol in it. I mean, we don't make a big fuss about that. So why should we make a big fuss about us putting fuel into our body? We have to function. And it's just their food freedom, not thinking about food 24/7 as well. It's just amazing. Sometimes I think, oh, it's 3 o'clock and I haven't had anything to eat, but I'm not hungry. I haven't thought about food at all. And it's just so simple to cook a meal, and it's so simple to think what I'm going to have. And the amount of dishes that you have to wash is less as well. And it's just like it's a completely new world. It's a completely new dynamic of things that happen. So yeah, it's been so freeing for me. And
Mm.
I'm even preparing my testimony for church as well, because obviously people know about, the times that I haven't been able to go to church because I've been in bed with migraines and I haven't been able to be part of anything at church. And now they see me more often. Oh, it's all good. And even the pastor's wife, she's a GP. And when I started this, I said to her, I'm going to start carnivore. Yeah, that's fine. Zero carbs, that's brilliant because that's going to help you lose weight and get more active and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, oh, okay, fine. She's a GP. She's on board with this. So I just felt like, right, this is it. I'm doing this.
Wow. So, um, you spoke about your husband before. How is he? What's his feeling about this with you? He must be happy that you're not
Oh,
suffering as much.
Yeah, his level of anxiety has reduced significantly since I've started this because he can see the change in me. He can see that I'm not constantly taking painkillers to be able to get through the day. And we're always in communication during the day, and sometimes I say, oh, I'm really struggling today, and I haven't had to do that for a while. In fact, I think for the last 6 weeks, apart from today, I haven't had a day off work because of migraines. Like, it's unheard of this long period of time without having to be off because of migraines is just unheard of from me. And just being able to go and do badminton, let's plan it ahead. And because most of the time I was like, okay, I don't have a migraine now, let's go and do something. um, but guarantee that the time I got back, because obviously I've been working out and get out of breath, I will get a migraine. It would trigger a migraine instantly. So I spent the last few years mostly a couch potato because anything I did, even cleaning the house, would sometimes trigger a migraine. So he is just speechless sometimes about what the change in me has been since I've started this.
Yeah, that's awesome. So even though he's not doing the carnivore diet, he's kind of living vicariously through you, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because when I talk to people about the carnivore diet and what it implies, he starts quoting things that I've told him about the carnivore diet. So he kind of backs me up, but he doesn't do it himself.
So how do you coordinate, um, cooking and eating and together and stuff?
Well,
Are you both just doing your own thing?
yeah, mainly because obviously we eat at different times of the day. When he eats 3 times a day, or sometimes snacks in between, I only eat one big meal a day. And that is not always at the same time that he eats. So sometimes I'm eating before him, or sometimes we eat together. But most of the time, obviously, since I've started this, has been different meals. Because obviously he's still eating carbs and things. So I say to him, you can't cook in fat because fat and carbs just don't go together. So you need to be careful with that. So, I cook everything in butter or tallow, and he cooks everything, sometimes he tries using olive oil, but I even say to him, try cooking low fat because you're eating carbs and that's not a good combination. So,
Yeah. So, I guess this is it for you. There's no going back.
oh yeah, no, no, this is my way of life now. This is a lifestyle. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth going back to being in pain all the time and not being able to function and not being able to enjoy any holidays or any quality time with my husband. And it's not a thing. It's not, I'm not jeopardizing that for anything, not for food, even for food. And I was a big chocoholic. I was big on chocolate. I would buy a bag of minstrels and sit down and eat it in half an hour, the whole packet. And I was convinced I was going to get diabetes at some point of my life because of all the sugar that I ate. But as it happens, God had other plans for me. So
And you just took me back to my childhood there in Scotland when you mentioned minstrels.
yes. Oh, once I tried those, I couldn't get off them. Honestly, I would sit down and every time, oh, let's watch a film. I need my minstrels. I need my big packet of minstrels. Otherwise, I can't function.
Right. So,
So yeah.
how would you recommend someone get started with carnivore? So imagine a friend came to you and asked you about it.
Yeah, well, I met a lady. She looked after our cats when we were on holiday. And as we were away, she mentioned that she was having mental health issues. So I started talking to her about it, and she was very open. And I said to her, "Look, not everybody can do it, but it's worked for me, and I believe it can work for anyone who tries it to improve any health condition." And thankfully she was open to it, and I managed to send her some videos and some useful information, and she's open to it. But most people, they think they're eating a healthy diet. But I'm eating healthy. You know, why would I change that? Mm, I'm not saying not, but you are not eating healthy. So it's very difficult. It's very frustrating at times, because you know what this way of eating, because I don't call it a diet, because a diet is a period of time where you do something. This is a way of life. This is a way of eating. This is something that for me, it's going to be now a norm. You know, I'm not interested in any other food. Not interested in going back. Look, even putting a bit of cheese in my meals has given me a migraine. So obviously, from now on, cheese is just not an option, and it's just not worth it. It's just not worth going back to what I was. That wasn't a life.
Yeah. So, Linda, is there any way that people can reach out to you? Do you have any social media?
Yes, I'm on Facebook, so you can find me, Linda Matthews. I'm on there, and as it happens, that I am part of the migraine support groups on Facebook as well. And I've seen so many people suffering and going through so much hardship, that every time I can, I post and say, look, you know, I was there, I got the t-shirt, and you know what? There is a way. There is a way that you can improve your situation. You just, you know, you need to look into this. So I always link videos, and I always link, and I always tell them my personal story, because sometimes you think, oh, you know, it worked for so and so, because that's what people say. Oh, I'm glad that it works for you, but yeah, but it can work for you too, you know. So it's quite hard sometimes to make people understand that this is what we are supposed to eat. This is what we as a species are supposed to eat, and it's where we're going to thrive. Whereas with the other things, yeah, they're very nice, they're very sweet and everything, but it's not optimal.
Well said. So
Yeah,
I'll link to your Facebook in the show notes.
yeah.
Linda, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your
No,
story. I really appreciate your
thank you for
time.
having me. It was very important for me to tell my story about migraine specifically, because I've heard so many other people talking about this story, and migraine is like a small part of their life that has improved, but obviously they've had other conditions that were probably more severe. Um, but it's important that people know that, you know, even for migraines, this way of eating can actually make you a happier person, and make you live your life to the full.